Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihare Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhare Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhare Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihare Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhare Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhare Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravyajagacharya Astotra Shata Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Jaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nasta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Bhaktir Bhavati Naistaki Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangulangayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Isharam Om Jnana-tamarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Roma Padaswami Iti Namine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Pasyata Desha Tarine. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 72, verses 4 and 5. We'll be chanting verse 4 together. Tvat paduke avir atma pariye charanti. Tvat paduke avir atma pariye charanti. Dhyayantya abhadranashane shuchayo grananti. Vindanti te kamala naba bhavapavargam. Ashateya Ashasateyadita Ashisha Ishi Nanye. Tvatpaduke Avir Atma Pariye Charanti. Yayantya Abhadranashane Shuchayo Grananti. Vindanti te Kamala Naba Vavapavargam. Asha Sateyadi Ta Ashisha Ishananye. Please chant. Paduke Avi Atma Pari Ye Charanti. Dhyayanti Abhadra Nashane Shuchayo Grananti. Indanti Te Kamala Naba Baba Pavargam. Asha Satayadi Ashisha Ishananye. Yayanti abadam shane shuchayo gunanti danti te Bhagavatam sasate yamita shisheshanande Pavake amina Padiye sharanti Shishayo gunanti Danti te Bhagavatam Shantate Yadita Shisha Ishaname Twat your Paduke slippers Aviratam constantly Pari fully Ye who Charanti serve Dhyayanti meditate upon Abhadra of inauspicious things Nashane which cause the destruction Shuchayaha purified Grananti and described in their words Vindanti obtain Te they Kamala like a lotus Naba O you whose navel Bhava of material life Apavargam the cessation Asa Asha Sate harbor desire Yadi if Te they Ashishaha attain the desired object Isha O Lord Na not Anye other persons. Translation and purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Purified persons who constantly serve, meditate upon, and glorify your shoes, which destroy everything inauspicious, are sure to obtain freedom from material existence, O lotus-naveled one. Even if they desire something in this world, they obtain it, whereas others, those who do not take shelter of you, are never satisfied, O Lord. Purport. Srila Prabhupada writes in this connection that liberated, Krishna-conscious persons do not even desire to become freed from this material existence or to enjoy material opulence. Their desires are fulfilled by Krishna-conscious activities. As far as we, King Yudhishthir, are concerned, we are fully surrendered unto your lotus feet, and by your grace, we are so fortunate to see you personally. Therefore, naturally, we have no desire for material opulences. The verdict of the Vedic wisdom is that you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I want to establish this fact, and I also want to show the world the difference between accepting you as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and accepting you as an ordinary, powerful, historical person. I wish to show the world that one can attain the highest perfection of life simply by taking shelter at your lotus feet, exactly as one can satisfy the branches, twigs, leaves, and flowers of an entire tree simply by watering the root. Thus, if one takes to Krishna consciousness, his life becomes fulfilled both materially and spiritually. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur similarly explains King Yudhishthir's statement. We feel no great urgency to perform the Rajasuya sacrifice, nor do we have any personal interest, since we are already seeing your lotus feet and by your boundless mercy have been taken into your personal association. But in this world, there are some whose hearts are contaminated, and who thus think you are not the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but an ordinary man. Or else they find fault with you and even criticize you. This is an arrow piercing our hearts. Therefore, to extract this arrow from our heart, we must call to this place, on the pretext of the Rajasuya, Brahma, Rudra, and other wise brahmacharis and demigods who reside in each of the 14 planetary systems. When such an exalted congregation has assembled, it will be incumbent upon them to first arrange for the Agra Puja, or the worship, for the most worthy person present. And when they are directly shown that you, Lord Krishna, are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the arrow piercing our heart will be removed. And text 5, translation reads, Therefore, O Lord of Lords, let the people of this world see the power of devotional service rendered to your lotus feet. Please show them, O Almighty One, the position of those Kurus and Srinjayas who worship you, and the position of those who do not. Purport. Here we clearly see the heart of a preacher. The great devotee Yudhishthir Maharaj implores Lord Krishna to demonstrate plainly the result of worshipping him and the result of not worshipping him. If the people of the world could understand this, they could begin to recognize that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that everyone's ultimate self-interest lies in surrendering to him. As confirmed by great authorities, Yudhishthir Maharaj is a pure devotee of the Lord, and thus his actual motivation in discharging his duties as a king was to establish the supremacy of Lord Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the real purport of the activities of the Pandavas, which are described in both the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Mahabharata. I'll read those verses back to back so we get a more complete picture. Purified persons who constantly serve, meditate upon, and glorify your shoes, which destroy everything inauspicious, are sure to obtain freedom from material existence, O lotus-naveled one. Even if they desire something in this world, they obtain it, whereas others, those who do not take shelter of you, are never satisfied, O Lord. Therefore, O Lord of Lords, let the people of this world see the power of devotional service rendered to your lotus feet. Please show them, O Almighty One, the position of those Kurus and Srinjayas who worship you, and the position of those who do not. So this is Maharaj Yudhishthir's expression of love for Krishna. And in this context, love means two things: that you never stop glorifying your beloved, and you cannot tolerate any minimization of your beloved. So Yudhishthir's whole goal is to glorify Krishna and dispel all misconceptions about Krishna. That's also our goal as devotees in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. On one level, our mission is to establish Harinam Sankirtan, which is the Yuga Dharma. But to do this, at the same time, we have to establish that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And also in doing this, we have to dispel people's doubts about Krishna. And in this day and age, practically everybody has some form of misconception about Krishna. Some people, lots of people, have at the most a very, very limited understanding of who is God. There's lots of people who can't understand or don't understand or won't understand that God is a person. They think that God is impersonal, which is the appropriately named impersonalist conception. And a lot of those people, their concept stops at the Brahman effulgence. It's just light and nothingness and all these other things that fall under the umbrella of impersonalism. God's the universe, man. Then we have the Mayavad conception that think we're all God, but we're just an illusion. Prabhupada in the Chaitanya Charitamrita over and over and over again, mainly in the Madhya Lila, he repeats this so many times so that we can get the importance of it, that anyone who hears this philosophy is doomed. This is the most dangerous philosophy that we find in so-called religionists, so-called spiritualists. Well, you're God, you just forgot. How does God forget? It's absolute nonsense would be an understatement. Then there's others whose conceptions are a little bit better than the previously mentioned, but they're not the complete picture. The Muslim conception is that God's impossible to see or understand. It's philosophy that is so full in awe of reverence that they almost deny God's personhood because they're so reverential of the magnificence and the opulence of God. But they do believe that God is a person. We just can't understand what he looks like or see him in that way. There's too much effulgence, which is to some degree that's backed up in the Ishopanishad. And one of the prayers right at the end is, please remove your dazzling effulgence so that I can see you. So we can be in some ways unable to see God. But that's not the end-all be-all, is that we're permanently staring at the sun, unable to see what's behind the bright light. The Christians believe that God is a person as well, that you can see God, but they have this idea that because he's the oldest person, he also looks very old. He's an old man in the sky with a big beard and vengeful and spiteful and judgmental and all of these things. And they don't have any real information of what God is doing. They don't know very much about where God resides, what the heavenly abode is like. Their description stops somewhere along the lines of, well, there's streets paved with gold and it's all very nice. But they don't rightly know, what God is doing, where He resides, who His associates are, what everything looks like. It's a very vague idea. And I mean, there's so many different forms of misconceptions as well. People that think a regular person is God because a regular person has come and said, I'm God, look at me. I can do this and summon up some gold. That means I'm God because I can produce gold with magic tricks. And, they get some level of following, and they get some name and fame and some institution. But it's pretty easy to tell that these people aren't God. They can't exhibit any opulence beyond some mundane opulence, and they're still subject to birth and disease, dwindling, death, all of these things. And there's others that believe that personalities like Shiva or Brahma, Durga, Kali, Vishnu, any number of devas are the supreme. And there's other people that say, well, we appreciate Krishna. Krishna's a really nice historical figure, very important character in the Mahabharata. He's great, personality within this nice Indian mythology. But our acharyas have revealed to us, Vedic scriptures have revealed to us, that actually Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. He is one without a second, the original cause of all causes. We have this information readily available and in pretty plain language. The Bhagavatam itself says, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Every morning we hear, when we greet the deities, Govindam Adi Purusham. But we don't, because we know this, we don't just sit around and kind of rest on our academic laurels that, well, we know what the truth is, and there's, those poor bastards out there have no idea, but we know, and isn't this great, and now let's chant these nice mantras that, do these glorifications, and everything's all fine and dandy. We keep the doors locked, and we only go outside to get groceries or whatever. That's not the Krishna consciousness movement. Since we come in the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it's abundantly obvious to us, it's abundantly clear for those of us who are reading Srila Prabhupada's books, because we also come in the line of Srila Prabhupada, that we have a mission. Well, what's our mission? Our mission is to spread this information to every town and village. Well, how do we spread the information? By the chanting of the holy names. Srila Prabhupada very famously said in an interview once, he said, I've come to remind you what you have forgotten. So the information that we have isn't new. It's timeless information, and it's something that we all already know, but we've forgotten it. And in our forgetting of this information, in our coming to the material world, we've tried to assume the role of Krishna, tried to become the enjoyer and the Purusha and the propagator. We fall victim to this concept of I, me, and mine, that this is my body, all these things belong to me, the world revolves around me, I'm the doer, I'm number one, I'm so great, I speak the best and give the best classes, so on, so forth, etc., ad nauseum. Very egotistical. We're all, even those who, materialists myself, they're very humble. No, they're still very egotistical. Because true humility is understanding who this all actually belongs to. This concept of I, me, and mine, this concept of the body, that I am a white kid from Phoenix, is the opposite of the truth. In this material consciousness that we find ourselves in, we tend to think everything revolves around us. Everything revolves around my family or my town or my state or my country. But actually everything revolves around Krishna. Outside of this temporary world, in the eternal spiritual world, everything is revolving around Krishna. Everything is to do with Krishna, and there is nothing that isn't to do with Krishna in the spiritual world. And because we've come here, because we have this conception, we're subject to certain problems, the threefold miseries, birth, disease, old age, dwindling, death. But for somebody who's introspective, intelligent, inquisitive, these threefold miseries are not as problematic as they are for those who are in the material conception, in the bodily conception. These miseries are actually a blessing, and they are actually a gift from Krishna. Because of these threefold miseries, it's difficult to live in this material world. There's always something causing a disturbance. There's always an agitation. There's always a rock in the shoe. And this is Krishna's design, ultimately. That out of his unlimited mercy, he's given us this place to come and act like we're kings and do so much nonsense and try so hard to enjoy. But there's these aspects that are built in to subtly remind us that this isn't where we belong, actually. This isn't our home. This isn't our position. This isn't our body, our family. This isn't our anything. And there's plenty of people out there asking the questions. Why, even after becoming a billionaire or getting married and having a family or getting the job or the house or the whatever that I thought I really wanted, I thought I got the last piece of the puzzle, but there's still something missing. And I can't seem to figure out what it is. There's so many people that are in both great opulence and great squalor that are asking these questions, trying to figure out what else they need to feel whole or complete, happy, satisfied. Uh, isn't that a Rolling Stone song? I can't get no satisfaction. Uh, this is the great problem that's plaguing so many people. And if Krishna loves us so much that he's created this world for us, this playground for us to come and enjoy, why would he install these deficits, some people might say? Why would we come here out of Krishna's unlimited mercy to enjoy and ultimately find that things aren't enjoyable? Well, because that's not the nature of this world, and that's not the nature of the position of the individual living entity. We're not meant to be the enjoyer, we're meant to be the enjoyed. So he gives us these difficulties to make us ask the question, what's wrong here? What am I missing? And then he sends his representatives, or he even comes himself to assist us in finding the answer. The answer to why does this material world suck? It's because we're not supposed to be here. We're supposed to be with Krishna. So this Krishna consciousness movement is very simply a byproduct of Krishna's unlimited mercy, a byproduct of his appearance as his own devotee to give the time appropriate answer to the questions that everybody is left with. This Krishna conscious movement is also a byproduct of Krishna's pure devotees' desire to constantly serve, meditate upon, and show the world the power of devotional service. In different ages, the service to Krishna is performed differently. There's according to the ability of man in a particular age. The process might be by meditation or worship, but in this age, we're actually very fortunate. We're given so many problems. We have such a short duration of life. We're not very competent or powerful, but we have the easiest method, that simply by chanting Krishna's name, we get the same benefit of tens of thousands of years of austerities, or so much perfect deity worship and sacrifices performed. We don't have to do these things that are quite as exacting. We've got the easy way out in this age. And we're very fortunate to have so many merciful acharyas, so many great personalities come directly in our own line of disciplic succession, giving us this knowledge in so many different ways. There's so many books that have been written. Just by Bhaktivinoda Thakur alone, he wrote over 100 books. He composed so many songs in his life. Among all his other accomplishments, he wrote these very, very vast and impressive literatures. What to speak of Srila Prabhupada's accomplishments, if not just writing so many books, but traveling to so many places. And we're given all of these books, and songs, lectures. We're given all of these things so that there's plentiful ways to destroy all of these doubts, the misinformation, the illusion that we find ourselves in. Any confusion can very simply be cleared just by hearing in disciplic succession, by reading and discussing and hearing and trying to understand and relish Srila Prabhupada's books. There's no need for arguments, there's no need for confusion, illusion. Everything's so accessible in this day and age. I mean, we have, in the English language alone, we have all of Srila Prabhupada's books. We have the vast majority of Bhaktisiddhanta's works, vast majority of Bhakti Vinod's works. We have books that weren't available 100, 150 years ago. There's thousands and thousands of Vaishnava literatures that are presently available for us to understand. So there's not just that, there's so many of Prabhupada's disciples and grand disciples that are writing the same information in ways that are, there's this race almost to try to represent the information in the newest way with the newest language that's more easily understood by the youngest generation. We have so many explanations, so many purports and commentaries. It's all so nicely explained. And we even have just the plain essence to chant Hare Krishna. And by this process, by the reading, by chanting, by getting devotees association, attending classes, having discussions, asking questions, giving answers, teaching, all of these things, we start to understand what our actual position is. We start to understand the truth. And for us, one of the most important things that we can understand is our relationship with the holy name. That Yudhishthir gets to serve Krishna directly as we're reading. And Krishna's right there in his form, But Krishna's also right here with all of us in his name. And that name is non-different from Krishna's form. The name is not just non-different from the deity, but the name is non-different from Krishna's spiritual form as well. Where Yudhishthir has the ability to glorify Krishna by performing the Rajasuya sacrifice, we have the great opportunity to perform the japa sacrifice, the Sankirtan sacrifice. This is our glorification of Krishna. And to do one of these things, to do the japa sacrifice, we have to do the Sankirtan sacrifice. To do the Sankirtan sacrifice, we have to do the japa sacrifice. These are interdependent, completely interdependent upon each other. Without one, we can't do the other. Without Sankirtan, without book distribution, without publicly chanting and glorifying Krishna, we're not going to be able to go deep in our japa. And without having that internal practice, without going deep on our own and forming a personal relationship with the name, we won't be able to very successfully perform Sankirtan. It's not that we are absolutely bound to, we have to do, deity worship for this long, and then we have to read this many books and do these things and take these classes, do this, that, and the other. The deity worship is there. It's described that the neophyte devotee is the one that performs deity worship. So it's there, it has its purpose, it has its importance. But our most important deity is the holy name. We can very, very simply perform deity worship just by chanting. We're fortunate to have the opportunity to do much more elaborate worship. But most importantly, our primary form of worship is to chant. In Srila Rupa Goswami's Namastika, he gives us this, I think even saying a very strong indication would be an understatement. He makes it abundantly clear that the holy name has form. He says, "O holy name, the tips of the toes of your lotus feet are constantly being worshipped by the glowing radiance emanating from the string of gems known as the Upanishads, the crown jewel of all the Vedas. You are eternally adored by liberated souls such as Narada and Shukadev. O Harinam, I take complete shelter of you." So we understand I don't think you can get more plain than that the holy name does have form. But our misconceptions, our offensive chanting rooted in inattentiveness, our confusion, we ignore this, or we don't understand this fact. But when we come to the understanding, even on a base level, that when we're chanting, we are interacting with Krishna, we're communicating with Krishna, then that allows us to go beyond that, or start going beyond that offensive stage, and we start getting the nectar. So we come to this place of understanding by reading, by relishing these books and discussing, and not just by the internal process or the the internal on the individual platform or internal platform of discussing amongst devotees, but by also going out and sharing this with people. Not that we're going out to reveal these esoteric truths about the holy name and about Krishna and his form to anybody who approaches us on the street or anybody we approach on the street. But we're going out trying to plant the seed, trying to engage people in one way or another. This is how we can understand Yudhishthir's reason for wanting to perform this sacrifice. This is his process according to time, place, and circumstance to appropriately establish Krishna's supremacy. And this is why Lord Chaitanya came, to establish this same fact in a way that is appropriate for the time, understandable for the people. And we can see what the side effects are of not performing this process. I'm sure each of us, we all have our own horror stories of what life was like before Krishna consciousness. And we can see, not just in our own lives, the before and after, but we can look, even the richest people in the world, even the most powerful people in the world are very discontent. Elon Musk is he's bouncing back and forth with Bezos for who's richest, and they're both divorced. Musk's trying his hardest to get off this planet because he thinks he's going to be happier on another one. Bill Gates used to be the richest man in the world, and at some point he realized that money doesn't bring happiness. So now he's trying like anything to give his money away and see if there's happiness in giving money away. There's so many royal families in the Middle East that have more money than even these people. Bezos, Musk, Gates, people like this is wealth on an individual level, but these like Saudi royal families, their wealth makes those people look poor. And even with all of these palatial houses that they have and these huge opulent cities they have, which are bordered by slums, hundreds of multi-million-dollar cars and slaves and whatever else that you could want, they're still unsatisfied. They're still missing something. And then we have the example of the pure devotee. Srila Prabhupada once told a disciple that, we have all of these temples, so many nice arrangements, but for me, I would be more happy to go back to my rooms at Radha Damodar. But for me, that's sense gratification. So, I've been to the rooms at Radha Damodar. I'm sure I'm not the only one. But for those that haven't been, they're very small. They've since been renovated, and they're still not in any way, shape, or form luxurious. There's really no amenities there. And even at that time, there was, no amenities. There's stories of how hot it gets in Vrindavan in the summer and how furnace-like those rooms become. But Prabhupada was perfectly content to sit in those rooms in the presence of Radha Damodar, in the presence of Rupa Goswami. This is the nature of a sadhu. This is the mode of goodness personified, to be satisfied by the simple things in life. This is what it means to be Atmaram, to be self-satisfied, that there's no dependence on any particular material condition. This is what it means to understand the truth. And we can also see by this that it's not a race to become satisfied and be pleased wherever we are, but that it's about glorifying Krishna. That we don't sit somewhere in a holy dham, absorbed in bhajan, but that we take risk for Krishna. We go out of our comfort zone for Krishna. We do things that are uncomfortable and go places that are not so spiritual for Krishna. There's the Matra Rock Dance in San Francisco that was the first big event organized for Prabhupada that was greatly successful. All of the big rock bands at the time were there. And Prabhupada got up on stage and chanted in front of so many people. And what was his comment? He looks at one of his disciples and says, "This is no place for a brahmachari." As soon as his time there was done, he left, went back to the temple, and went about his life. And it's such a juxtaposition from Radha Damodar to a rock concert. I don't think you can get much more polar than that. But this is what the devotee does. The devotee will do anything to glorify Krishna, whether it's performing a sacrifice that requires conquering all other kingdoms on the planet, or going from a pleasing arrangement to an unpleasing arrangement. Whatever it takes to glorify Krishna. That's the mood of the pure devotee. And by trying to spread the glory of Krishna, by trying to propagate the Krishna consciousness movement, we ultimately get the mercy of the Krishna consciousness movement. And we get the greatest benediction of all. When we serve Krishna in this way, he becomes so pleased with us. So, this appears to be time to ask for questions or comments. If anybody has anything.
Thank you, Prabhu, for a nice class. So many nice points, you know. Maharaj gave a class on how sound has form. And when we think about the holy name, and Krishna is the same as if we think about form, Krishna, the holy name having form, then we only thing we're thinking about is Krishna and his two-armed form, or his four-armed form, or just Krishna, period. You know, when we see Krishna, when we see sound having form, like the holy name having form, could you explain that a little bit?
The material scientists in the last 20 or 30 years are just now starting to discover very, very minutely that sound has form. So they're doing so many different experiments and things of that nature to try to understand the form of sound. DARPA, the United States government's defense research. They create weapons, figure out ways to kill and maim and harm people. Have invented more than one weapon that uses sound, that just by sound vibration incapacitates people. I think they've even developed something that takes out missiles with sound. Not really up to date on the latest defense weaponry, but they have these things that are occasionally used for crowd control. But Rupa Goswami, 500 years ago, is saying that the holy name has feet. Not just that the holy name has feet, but those feet are worshipable. And it's not metaphor, it's not alliteration, it's absolute truth. It might not be a form that we're very easily understanding, because our level of conception is very gross. There's there's wood that's there that has form, but there's people, there's adults that work jobs and drive cars and vote, that don't necessarily understand that there's oxygen, and oxygen has mass, and that it's molecules. They just think it's void. They have no conception of what oxygen is. There's a product that was developed by NASA called aerogel. It's 99% air, but it's a solid. I don't know, they've made some way, they've manipulated some ingredients to make this it's lightest substance on earth, and you can get a block of it that weighs practically nothing, but you can see it. You can hold it and touch it and squeeze it and throw it up in the air, and it's practically it's tangible air, because it's hard to you can't get a handful of air just in its natural form here. So if we can't properly grasp what is material form, we don't understand fully what's going on inside of the body, or how nature is working, if we can't understand the gross elements of nature, we're going to have a difficult time understanding the subtle elements of nature. And if we're having a hard time understanding the subtle elements of nature, we're going to have a very difficult time understanding the spiritual, because the spiritual isn't bound to the constraints that we misidentify with by thinking things like I'm this body. In the concept of the body, then we're thinking that when we hear that the name has form, we're identifying with this form. But this is material. The form of the holy name is entirely spiritual. And once we start hearing and thinking, then we can get some concept. But it's not an easy subject to grasp. It's not easy to analogize. Name has form. Sound has form. But we can understand by its effect. If I say some mean and hateful thing to you, there's going to be some effect. If I blast a certain frequency with a certain intensity, there's going to be an effect. If a fire alarm went off right now, we'd all become pretty uncomfortable because it's not a pleasant sound. But if I say something nice to you, there's also an effect. So when we chant the holy names, we can observe an effect. I mean, that's the argument that got me started chanting Hare Krishna. Hey, try it for 5 minutes a day for a week, and at the end of the week, see what happens. And then they, give you the spoiler that it's, you're gonna enjoy it. It's gonna feel nice to chant, and it's gonna be, a meditative experience. And you're going to want to do it more. So do it more. Don't just say, oh, that was really nice, and then never do it again. Keep doing it. And then you add a little bit more. And after, a couple weeks of 5 minutes of chanting a day, then, go to 10 or 15. Or get a japa mala and chant 1 round a day. And then from 1 go to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 12, 12 to 16, 16 to 64. And go back to Godhead. So at the very least, we can understand that the form of the holy name of Krishna is having some effect in our lives. One way or another, we have to find a way to observe at least the effect of the form of the holy name. And then more will be revealed.
Prabhu, thank you.
You made the point that there's an interconnection between chanting and Sankirtan. So, in a further elaboration, you pointed out that actually that Sankirtan may not necessitate, explanations of the holy name or explanation perhaps of the philosophy, though you didn't say that specifically, but at least a more in-depth examination of what the holy name is. But rather that I'm taking it that the implication is that the connection just has to do with allowing people to hear the holy name. So I'm just checking on that because you had mentioned that it plants the seeds. So I presume the point you were making, or the implication is that just allowing others to hear the holy name is the interconnection between one's own personal hearing of the holy name and actually going out on Sankirtan to allow others to hear. Is that correct? From how you were presenting the connection?
I think there's a parallel. A lot of what I hear in japa retreats is the encouragement for people to focus on hearing the name as they chant it. And don't try focusing on this side or the other. Just try to hear the name. And I think that same principle can be brought into Sankirtan. There's certainly benefit for people who hear us chanting. But I think sometimes as devotees, we might lean on that a little harder than we should as well. that we shouldn't just, oh, well, they heard, so that's good enough. I think we should be striving to do just a little bit more for Krishna. Even if we're doing a lot, we should always be trying to do a little bit more for Krishna. So if we're not going out and chanting and getting people to hear the names, then we should go out and get people to hear. And if we are getting people to hear the names, then we should be trying to get them to chant the names. And progressively, incrementally, as far as we're able to, we should be expanding upon that. So there's benefit in just the hearing, but there's more benefit in the hearing and the chanting. There's benefit in the hearing and chanting, but there's more benefit in regularly hearing and chanting. And there's benefit in regularly hearing and chanting, but there's more benefit in regularly hearing and chanting and relishing. It just builds upon itself like that. I don't know, and it's not that the information's not there, I just haven't developed the faith, to be brutally honest, that just by going out and chanting and people hearing as we pass by that they're going to become devotees in their next life. I don't necessarily have that faith yet. I have the faith that they're going to get some benefit, but I, for myself, think I need to do a little bit more than to just walk past people and chant Krishna's name. But we have to start somewhere. We have to start with the chanting and then go from there. I don't know if that is an adequate response or not. So, with that, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.